All right. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode of Triple Play. Don't forget to
like, subscribe, and share.
That's right. And don't forget to also support us, man. You can support Triple Play for as little as $3 a month. So we appreciate those. And don't forget to support those that support us. Annie McCollum at Resource One at 636-458-1798. And Chris and CS Design at 573-436-3717. You have financial planning needs, you got computer needs. Those guys will help you out with those type of things.
Do you have that memorized yet?
Almost. I have to kind of look at it every now and then.
I was gonna say that was nice. I glanced over to see if you were actually reading it, but you're close to memorizing it?
I'm pretty close to memorizing it. Yeah, as many times we've said it now. 60 something times? So. Yeah.
Quite a few times, yeah.
Yeah, well, this will be episode, I think, 62 or 63, and we've got, 180-something episodes out there, so just a few.
There's lots of audio of us talking.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's pretty good pretty good backlog there.
Yeah.
You might have noticed a new voice. You might have seen him as well, but...
Why don't you introduce him? Because you know him as well as... I know him better than you, but you know him as well.
We got Tommy Layne here, former baseball player. I'm not 100% up to snuff on what you're up to these days, but
that's okay.
We'll get caught up, I'm sure. But great competitor, great man. Knows Josh. Not entirely sure. I've heard the story, but we'll reel a bit, and yeah, we'll hear about everything about your life, every detail today.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. We're gonna be here for a few hours.
Oh yeah, well, we better order some food. It's gonna be a while. Yeah. So.
No. So you played baseball, obviously. Give us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you grew up in the St. Louis area. Tell us a little bit about where you came up, what inspired you to get into baseball, and a little bit about your background. Obviously, St. Louis question: where'd you go to school?
Right. Well, born and raised here in St. Louis. Family still lives in the house I was born in. My mom and dad do. All my brothers. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. Everybody still lives in St. Louis. Everybody's got kids and married with kids and relatively successful lives. So very proud of the family from that perspective. Went to Fort Zumwalt South, answered the typical Missouri St. Charles or St. Louis questions, where'd you go to high school, right? So yeah. Went to Fort Zumwalt South over in St. Peters. Full transparency, grew up, 95% of my time was spent playing soccer.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a much better soccer player than I ever was at baseball until I made the decision to basically spend full-time baseball, which was when I was a senior in high school. So I played for Scott Gallagher, which is a local select club, very competitive, traveled all over the United States doing that my whole childhood, but always had that passion for driving a home run, right? When you hit a ball so pure, you don't feel it. That was my drive. That was my big drive in baseball. So that was kind of where it started. And then I got to the senior and high school level and was actually doing some lessons with Jerry Daniels. You guys are familiar with Jerry, being from St. Louis. And he had like a high college showcase for all the high school guys. And that was the end of my hitting career. I threw a bullpen and hit 86 from the left side. And okay, congratulations, you're going to get signed to play college baseball as a pitcher. It was
awesome,
bittersweet because I enjoyed it. But then on the flip side, like the one reason I wanted to play baseball was a hit, and it was being stripped. So,
did you have any opportunities in soccer? I mean, I know St. Louis. I don't know if anybody listening outside of St. Louis knows this, but St. Louis is like the capital of the United States for soccer.
It is the place to be for soccer. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I did. When you play for Gallagher and you're playing, Gallagher when I played it was an A and a B team. There's 2 teams from my age group. And I was on the A team. I'd played since I was 9 all the way through till I was a senior in high school. And all those guys went on to play at good D1s. Nobody didn't have that opportunity. It was just that caliber of players that were on that team. I can't speak for the B team. I'm sure a lot of those guys went on to play college ball, but I don't know at what level. And I basically quit the Gallagher, which was where you're getting recruited. You're not getting recruited out of high school. It's coming out of the select team. And so I quit that just before my senior soccer season. So by quitting that, it was like I took myself out of that pool. I still received letters from universities interested in playing soccer, but at that point I was determined it was going to be baseball. So that was it.
Did you ever play a guy named Tommy Heineman? Just curious.
How old is Tommy?
He got to be close to your age. I don't know off the top of my head, but he's close.
Within years.
Yeah. I mean,
where'd he go to school?
He went to school around Eureka.
No, never played it. I mean, I'm 38, so I don't know if he would have been in my age class.
He's older or younger? He might be a little bit older.
No, he might. He's probably not. He's got to be 35, 36. We're going to have him on the show here shortly. He's a friend of mine from church. He played pro soccer. Won a couple of championships, and then this year I can't wait to get him on. He just came back and won USA's junior men's tournament at the World Cup.
Fantastic. Good for him. Congratulations.
Yeah. So that's why I was kind of curious if you guys had crossed, because he's a cool cat. So
yeah, no, I hadn't. And after you get through the high school stuff, you get into college stuff. That's where soccer gets a little bit more serious for a lot of those guys. They start looking at a career path down the line, and the professional soccer at that point wasn't probably turning out the cash value as it is today. And having all the MLS teams that are out there, it wasn't really there yet. So he's probably a little more apt and in tune to what's going on from the soccer world than what I am.
Oh yeah.
So you were always a baseball player.
At heart, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
kind of reminds you of Trace a little bit, because family. Do you know Trace Thompson?
I do. Where do I know Trace from? I played with him somewhere. It might have just been my little bit of time with the Dodgers. He's with the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have just been my experience with him there for a couple months. But
yeah, we were talking to him, and family of basketball guys, and he was the same way. I just loved the swing the bat, and fell in love with swinging the bat, and that's he played all sports, but that was the one that he just couldn't take himself away from.
Yeah,
there's a beauty to it.
Yeah, there definitely, and you see that play with D. Gordon. D. Gordon, basketball player his whole life, and he's really fast, and I think he grew up in baseball, so he had that little deep down seed of baseball, so he chose.
Well, his dad is Flash.
Well, sure,
that helps.
Sure.
There you go. Yeah. So you where'd you go to school for baseball?
After high school.
Yeah, after high school.
Yeah. So when life got real, right, we get to college, get out on our own, get away from mom and dad a little bit. I went 2 years at the junior college over here in Belleville, Illinois, at SWIC, Southwestern Illinois College. I was under Neil Fiala there, and Neil's a really good junior college coach. It wasn't a whole lot of pitching instruction, so I basically was just a thrower. You know how that goes. And so I did that there for a couple of years, and got an opportunity to go to Central Missouri State from there, which was under Darren Hendrickson. Familiar with Darren? And we'll probably stop there for my Central Missouri State experience. And so I made the decision to go play Coastal Plains League baseball out on the East Coast in Martinsville, Virginia. And out there, I'd kind of fell in love with a group of guys out there and was having a lot of success. I was a bullpen guy at Central Missouri State. I was number 12 out of the starters, or all the pitchers. I was 12 of 12, and then I'd kind of worked my way into being one of the first guys out of the bullpen at Central Mo.
Oh wow!
And then at the end of that year, we went 2 and out in the regional, so we were done. And there was some challenges at the end of that season going into the summer league, and so I went and played summer ball, and they turned me into a starter. And I had a really good summer starting in the Coastal Plains League. I was like, this is what it's all about. I developed a little sinker, had a decent little cutter, was picking up a little split finger. I was like, okay, this is what it is, right? Facing relatively decent D1 players, not any big names, because of course all those guys are in Cape and Northwoods. So got to experience a little bit of that, but just was a ground ball machine. And some colleges started taking interest and plugging away. Hey, what's he doing? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? And I said, you know what? I'm committed to Central Missouri State, but it's probably best for my future if I leave. So called Darren, asked for my release, and he gave it to me. And then I signed to go play at a little D2 in North Carolina, Mount Olive College. So I played there for the 2007 season. We got to third, and we finished third in the nation. And then the next year they won the World Series. So we were kind of in that point where it was like we were doing really well. So I started there for my senior year, had a good year. And then the Diamondbacks drafted me in the 26th round of 07. So
awesome.
Yeah.
In college, you mentioned the first stop that there was not instruction.
Southwestern SWIC, Southwestern Illinois College.
No, the next college, Central
Missouri State, which is University of Central Missouri now.
How's the instruction there?
Darren Hendrickson's a pitching guy.
Yeah.
He had Kevin Muller, I believe, who's still around. I think he's doing some stuff with the Gators or Perfect Game, or doing something with the younger kids now, I believe. Because I have a cousin who's actually getting into the recruiting thing for college, and I know Kevin Mulder, I think it is. I don't know. It's been a while. So, but he's actually taken a liking to my cousin, has been very, I don't think he knows that we're related, but has been very helpful in kind of getting him signed up for college ball. So, but yeah, Darren's a pitching guy. I'll never forget it. I mean, Darren and I didn't see eye to eye, obviously. I don't know if you guys picked up on that yet, but I didn't agree with some of his things, but he's been largely successful. I know he's He's a fantastic ability to have control. And he brought all the pitchers down. We had a rough series, right? We're sitting there in the bullpen. He's just talking to us, throwing different pitches to the bottom quadrants of the zone, just nailing it, right? And he's a coach in his 40s, is my guess, and just spotting up with breaking balls, change-ups. I mean, everything. He's just flipping it up there and just hitting spots. You're like, yeah, it does look easy when you do it like that, but it's a lot harder when somebody's trying to hit a missile off your forehead 60 feet away, right? So, but no, so that was my instruction there. And then I got my real instruction at Coastal Plains.
Okay.
So the pitching coach at the Coastal Plains League was Aaron Aiken. He was a first rounder with the Marlins in '97. Went to Mizzou. He's a Kansas kid, and he was in North Carolina at the time, coaching at Mount Olive College. He's one of the reasons why I decided to leave, because then I ended up going to Mount Olive. That man taught me more in 3 months than I learned my entire life about pitching. It's like, okay, this is a real thing, right? Like, you just know those guys that click for you. Aaron was one of those. And so he was definitely a light switch moment for me. And we went to Mount Olive College, and he was a very, very instrumental piece of my success in just getting drafted. There's no doubt. Had I not made that switch, I wouldn't have had a chance to play professional baseball, I don't believe. And I remember it like it was yesterday, calling my parents and saying, hey, I think I need to leave Central Missouri. And of all people, my dad's like, I don't think it's a good idea. Because he was always the one, if you think it's best, do it. And he said, I don't know if it's a good idea. And I was like, man, if I make this choice and it's a bad choice, I got to live with this. And he's going to be the son. I told you so. But no, it ended up working out. So trusted my gut, and things worked out.
That's awesome. 26th round. Tell me about that day. I mean, I remember the day I got drafted. I would imagine you did as well.
What round were you in?
13th.
Okay.
Yeah. It was 2005.
Bonus, baby.
Last year they did draft and follow, where they could draft you and then follow you. That was the last year of that.
You remember what year were you drafted?
2005.
Okay, you were 5. That's right. You just said that. So I was 07. It was the first year they televised the draft.
That's right. Was that Jacob Turner's draft? Maybe that was not. Maybe not.
I don't know.
He's a St. Louis.
I kind of blacked out those couple days. But no, it was very, very difficult because they only got through like 5 rounds, because they didn't realize when they did the televised version how much it was going to slow the process down. So, I'm talking to my agent, or not my agent, but I'm talking to my coaches, talking to everybody I know. Is like, hey, just sit tight. You're fine. Are you worried? Yeah, I'm worried. I got friends here at the house. Like, they just randomly showed up. It's draft day. Let's party, right? And then nothing happens. I don't get drafted. I'm like, oh.
Day one, right?
Yeah, day one. Yeah, I mean, it's a long day. You get through 5 rounds, which I'm like, okay, well, there's still hope for tomorrow. So tomorrow comes. They were all telling me, like, Diamondbacks were the hottest on the trail. I filled out 5, 6, 7 draft cards, something like that. But they were the most engaged. And, they said, you're probably going to be somewhere around 10 to 12. 10 comes, 11 comes, 12 comes, 13, 14, 15. And then it starts setting in like, I'm not getting drafted. I've got all these people here thinking that we're going to have a party. And I'm going to have to be letting them down, right? And so in hindsight, it was family and friends, not just friends, but family and friends. And hindsight should have played that a little bit differently. It wasn't so guaranteed. So that's the one word of caution I give every potential draft eligible player when they call me, ask me for my advice. But no, so they took a break between 25 and 26, the natural break between every 5 or 10 rounds, whatever, 15 rounds. And I get a phone call. I was actually talking to my coach at Mount Olive College, basically telling him, hey, I'm sweating this. Like, what's going on? Have you heard anything? And I get a phone call, and it's from Arizona, and it was Howard McCullough, who I don't know if he's still with them. I know his son was the first base coach for the Dodgers for a long time. I think he still is.
He still is, yeah.
So his dad is the one that drafted me.
That's great.
Super great guy.
Clayton's his son, I think.
That's
Clayton,
correct. Yeah. And so, he called me up and said, Tom, it's Howard McCullough with the Arizona Diamondbacks. I said, hi, how are you? He said, great. He said, if I draft you, you going to sign that damn thing? I said, Howard, give me the chance. And so we returned after the break. He said, all right, shut off your phones. Tell everybody to be quiet. Pump your volume up. We're going to draft you as soon as the break's over. And so we did that. They announced my name. Family went berserk, a lot of hugs and kisses and all that stuff. And then I swear to you, I had 2 drinks, adult beverages that night. But the champagne that was soaking through my skin from the repeated champagne showers from my buddies and family, I couldn't walk to bed. I'm not kidding. It soaked into my skin. Yeah. And I was, so I'll never forget that. That was quite the day.
Yeah. Now everybody knows why they actually shake that up and get poured on it, because it just sets in. You don't even think about it.
It gets you where you want to go a little quicker. Say that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really cool story.
Yeah, so that's the draft story, and then it was on to the real world. And hey, you got drafted on the 7th. You got to be in Arizona on the 9th. We got a flight.
I was gonna say I
went to the
thinking you went to Florida. I went to Florida, but they were in Arizona at that time.
Tucson of all places.
Oh.
Yes.
So you get off the plane, you get all your stuff, get in the locker room, and you go.
What did I just do?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I got one better than that. So AJ Hinch was our farm director at the time. And so I get drafted, do all the stuff, and I show up. I'm like, I have no idea what to expect. They don't tell you anything besides, here's your flight, here's your bonus check.
Yeah, sign this.
Yeah. Well, that's where I'm going. So AJ's got our contract. It was me and another guy. I don't remember who it was at this point. I was just like kid in candy store. And it laid out on his desk, and I sign it. After I get done signing it, he signs it, stands up, shakes my hand, and says, congratulations. 2 things. We all miss weddings. Don't even ask. Second thing, you can control 30% of your career. You do it 100% correct. You still may not make it to the big leagues. I was like, wow, what did I just do? I'm going to give away however many years of my life to chase this baseball career. And even if I do it perfect, it's not a guarantee, right? Especially being a 26 rounder with $1,000 for a signing bonus. Like there's no investment there. You know how it is. It's a business, right? It's a business up to a point. And so, but yeah, that was kind of where it started. And suited up, went out. The first guy I saw throw a bullpen is a guy named Jason Durst, and he's a high school draft or JUCO draft, young guy, and he's just spotting up at 94 with good break and stuff. So yeah, I'm out of my league. Nope, this ain't gonna last long. Keep the car warm. I'm coming home, right? Jason didn't make it through extended spring, and I ended up getting to the big league. So it's just funny to see how things transpire, right? But
100%.
Yeah, it was that was kind of the initial taste of organized baseball.
Now, how fast did you wind up throwing before it was all done? What was your top end fastball?
Craig Breslow, eat your heart out, 94 miles an hour. Craig Breslow, I played with him in Boston, and we were in Atlanta, and we had this bet, first to 94. And so I beat Brez that year. And Brez, to his defense, he was kind of maybe teetering on the downside. So it was harder for him to hit those numbers than it was for me. Brez got me by a couple years in age. But yeah, we had a bet. It was first to 94. So 94 was my peak as far as I know.
That's funny. All pitchers, you guys are all the same. Everybody knows the exact speed, when, where, what radar gun was on when they threw their hardest pitch. It's funny.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The only thing that compares to for us would be like, you could probably recall every grand slam you ever hit.
Yeah. No, I to be fair, I was gonna say I know the furthest home run I hit. I know.
There you go.
Stuff, so
yeah, it's all part of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So. You got drafted with the Diamondbacks. How'd you want? You eventually make it up, but you really didn't make a name until you got to Boston and the Yankees a little bit. So
yeah, there's a whole life that I lived between when I got drafted until I actually got a chance in the big leagues. There was a lot of stuff that happened life-wise, and so I don't know how long we have here, and I don't want to.
Every detail we got out.
Okay, all right. So I get drafted by Arizona. I do the rookie ball to low A, which was South Bend, Indiana. I went from there to high A, which was Visalia, California. And when I got to high A on the tail end, they had made some changes. AJ Hinch was moved out. I think he went to pursue some managing opportunities, I believe at the big league level. I think that's when he took over as the manager for the Diamondbacks for that short window. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And but AJ was great as a farm director, and they brought in a new guy. And for whatever reason, it's escaping me right now what his name was, but he came and watched me pitch in Visalia, California, and I threw 2 1/3 in relief innings. All ground balls, 1 strikeout, no ball lifted in the air, and it was like choppers, right? In California, to have good sink on the ball was tough. It's not as bad as Arizona or Colorado, but it was tough. And so he said, all right, you're done with this. You're going to AA, and you're going to start. So I went from being a long reliever out of the pen in high A to starting AA. I finished the year relatively well. ERA wasn't terrible, but for getting my first taste of AA. And then that off season, he put me in the Arizona Fall League, and learned a lot there. Had a really good run in Arizona Fall League. It's like, did you play in the Fall League? Fall League, it's limited innings. You might get 12 innings.
So that's where they send prospects for anybody who's listening. So at some point, Tommy was a
yes, that's when I started to get my name in terms of in the hat with the Diamondbacks, and it was geared towards lefty getting ground balls. We had Brandon Webb at that point, and you guys all know Brandon Webb, the sinker baller guru, another Greg Maddux, like the Greg Maddux of our generation kind of. And so Diamondbacks had him, and so if you threw a sinker and you had a breath, you had a chance with them. And so I was pushed through a little bit, went to the Fall League, and it became a little bit more real that maybe a chance at the major leagues was an option. But I definitely had our new farm director, and it's terrible that I don't know his name at the moment, but it'll come to me. he was giving me an opportunity. And so I did that, and the fall league went well. It's one of those deals you get, 10, 12 innings while you're there for a 6-week time frame, 2 months, whatever it is. And you end up, one bad outing could blow up your numbers. But I carried a sub-1 for almost all of the fall league, and then I had one rough outing. It was like a walk, a bloop, a double. It's, you give up a 4 spot, your numbers get outrageous pretty quick. And so, but that was a great experience. Got to meet a lot of guys. Everybody there, with the exception of one, I think, got a taste of the big leagues. So it was pretty cool to see the turnover.
Yeah, they send if you go to the fall league, it's like almost like you're gonna be in the big leagues.
Yes, your success rate of that is like 80-something% of getting it. I mean, you get there, you gotta stay. That's the hard part, right? So that was 09, and then 10 happened. I went to AA, back to AA to be a starter in 10. Continued the sinker baller stuff and had a great year. Had a good ERA, good win numbers. The only thing, it's AA, nobody really cared, but at the time I thought was really cool. I had beaten Jake Peavy's win record in Mobile, Alabama.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up with, I think it was 12 wins that year to knock him off. I think he had 10 prior to that. But Jake Peavy's career is completely different than mine. But at the point, it was pretty cool little notch in the cap. From there, went to AAA, and life got real. AAA, Reno, Nevada, pitching on the moon. It was hard. Ball didn't sink. Pop-ups were homers. Especially in Reno, where the ball flies in Reno. So I struggled as a starter there. They put me in the bullpen, and actually kind of got a lot better. My ERA from starting was always sitting around a 5, struggling to get through 5 innings, what you don't want out of a starter. And then in the bullpen, got into long relief and got the numbers back to a good point. And then, of course, once I got to where I felt like, okay, I've been in the bullpen long enough now, things are going well. I'm legitimately an opportunist. Like, I could get to the big leagues based off the current workload I'm performing. And so that became a little bit more real at that point. Then they needed a starter in a big league. So they pulled a guy out of AAA, and guess who got put back in the rotation? So I got back in the rotation. Numbers got ugly again, finished the year. So that would have been finishing 2011. So I didn't end on a great note in 11. 2012 comes, and it's the last day of camp. At this point, Mike Bell was our farm director. Mike passed away of pancreatic cancer about a year ago. But he was a great guy, super healthy guy too, just unfortunate. Left behind a wife and kids. So sad to see that. He was actually my manager in Visalia before he became the farm director. But he came up to me at the last day of spring training. It's literally like the day before we're supposed to leave. And he said, I was eating breakfast, and he's like, Tommy, I don't know what's going to happen. He said, either going to AAA to be a reliever, going to AA to start, or we're sending you home. I said, okay. I said, well, Mike, I signed a 6-year contract, the minor league contract we all sign. I said, I signed a contract, I'm going to honor it. So whatever you guys want to do, that's, whatever, it is what it is. I'll deal with it. And so it was all predicated off Wade Miley making the big league roster. So Wade made the big league roster 2012. They sent me to AAA to start, which was supposed to be a bullpen guy. We all know how starting in AAA went, right? Sent me to AAA to start, and then so that was it. So, okay, well, great. Well, I got a chip, I got a chair, I got a chance, right? And so I had 4 or 5 starts, was like 0-4, 0-5, but I had good numbers. Like, batting average was good. We were just losing games 3-2, 2-1, just unlucky. Just weren't a good team at that point. And so Trevor Bauer from the Dodgers, he was the
Yamamoto Giants now.
Yes, that Trevor. So he was with us in the organization, and they started him off in AA, but he was fast tracked to the big leagues. So, as you can imagine, Reno, Nevada in April and May is rather chilly. So they let Trower start in AA and stay warm. Once the weather started to warm up, they were calling him up to AAA. Well, I had his AAA starting spot.
I faced him his first start in AA.
How'd it go? He's got good stuff.
Yeah, no, he was throwing really hard back then.
Yeah.
I think he gave up like 3 runs. How the new prospect, we really focus in.
Yeah, he's got a target.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
So they called me in on May the 2nd, and Mel Stoudemire Jr. was our pitching coordinator at the time. I think he is now with where is Mel? He's not with Miami, is he?
Twins came into mind. I don't know why.
He's in the big leagues coaching somebody somewhere for pitching. I think I don't know. You might be right. But so he called me into the office, and he was our coordinator, and they sit me down, and they said, hey, Tommy, Trevor's got to come up to AAA. I said, okay. He said, but instead of releasing you, we decided to trade you. Great.
Thank you.
Where am I going? They said, AJ Hinch is going to be calling you. I was, okay, light bulb goes off. Where's AJ at nowadays, right? And he was then, at that point, he was with the San Diego Padres. And so literally they informed me, and then I guess they had to let AJ know that I was informed. So then AJ calls me and says, okay, look, we need help. San Diego's at a bit of a problem here. We got some starters in the big leagues that are hurt. So some AAA guys have come up. Our AAA staff is really struggling. We got some guys in AA that are prospects. We don't want them to go to Tucson, Arizona and experience AAA yet. We don't think they're ready for it, right? And so I think San Diego gave the Diamondbacks a bucket of baseballs. In return, they gave them me. And so...
they were a nice bucket of baseballs, though, right?
I mean, hopefully they were new. Hopefully. Not the plastic covered ones. Yeah. Real leather.
Yeah.
So yeah, they sent me over there, and he said, look, you're going to AAA for a month. We got some guys coming off the disabled list. After that, you're going to AA, and we'll just figure out next year. It's okay. And, at that point, life starts setting in a little bit. I was getting ready to get released and going over here to basically be a roster filler. But the one thing my parents always instilled in me was you just don't quit, right? You don't quit mid-season, at least. That's not the way to go out. You made a commitment, so I honored that commitment, right? And technically, I told Mike my contract signed for 6 years. I'll honor it, and traded me to the Padres. So now I have to share that ownership with the Padres for that contract. So that was the intent, was basically get through the year. And that was probably going to be it for me. And my wife was getting ready to get out of dental school. I was getting on the tail end of that. And so the idea of, getting married, we weren't married at the time, but getting married, starting a family, and just, becoming a big kid and doing it outside of trying to play a baseball game for 9 months out of the year with spring training included was a little bit more real for me. So go to San Diego, go to AAA, same kind of thing. Was pitching well, throwing well, but we were really bad, and I was losing games. So at this point, I think I was at AAA. I was like 0-8 with a 4.5, which is not bad in Tucson, right? 4.5. Was my total on the year was like an 0-8 with a 4.5. That was including my stuff with Reno. So I go to AA. They send me down after my month. They send me down, and I'm starting in AA. And I think I had 2 or 3 starts in AA. And first one went okay. We lost. We were bad as well. I mean, it's the Padres. The minor league system was not good back then. And I had one start, didn't go. I think I lost, but I pitched well. And then I had another one that was a no decision. And then we were in Corpus Christi, Texas. And it is the hottest place on earth. Humidity is 1,000,000. The temperature is 1,000,000. It was miserable. And I was warming up before the game. And I remember thinking, you're done. Like, if you set your glove down right now and left, I wouldn't care. Like, I was that miserable. It's like, no, you can't do that. You can't. Your pitcher, you were in the bullpen. You know what it's like when a starter comes up with some lame duck injury in the first inning and you got to cover 9 innings. Get through 5. Like, that was in my head, just get through 5. I go out and I go 6 2/3 perfect. Because I didn't give a rip about anything. Like, I was done. John Singleton. You know the name?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still around.
He might be floating around. Yeah, he's had an interesting. They should do a documentary on that man. Honestly,
He hits an apple homer to ruin my perfect game. And then I walk a guy, they take me out. Of course, the bullpen comes in, cashes in my one chip that was left out there. So I get tagged with two earnings on the day. And I lost 2-0. It's like, man, this is not it, man. I'm 0-9 with like not a terrible ERA, but it's ugly, right? It's still bad.
You still see a goose egg.
Still 0-9.
Yeah.
I got way too many starts under my belt. I mean, you got to luck into one every now and again, right?
Mm-hmm. Or so they say.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I leave that game, and you know how it is in baseball. You're in the dugout, and once your inning's over as a starting pitcher, it's professional courtesy. You don't leave the inning when your runs are out there. And I always just I finished no matter what it was, whether my runs came in to score or didn't. I finished the inning with the team, and even if the guy had a good one or a bad one, it was just try to be a good teammate and tell him, hey, thanks for trying to pick me up, or hey, good job picking me up, whatever that is, right? Because I understood from being in a bullpen, you're not always going to keep those runs from being cashed in. So it's a hard job to do. So I did that, and I literally walked out, went up in the locker room, and laid my bag down on the floor, started packing my bag. So I'm done. That was it, right? And Daniel Stang, who was a prior Diamondback, very similar to my situation, was getting released from the Diamondbacks, signed a free agent contract with AJ to be a bullpen arm in AA. He's a local Arizona guy, but used to throw cheddar. At this point, he had kind of rekindled his arm path and was throwing 97, 98 again with the nasty slider, just silly stuff. But he was an elbow issue guy, always blow out. He comes in because you know how closers are. They have their ceremonial restroom breaks in the 8th inning, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's all part of the deal.
Yeah. Bubble guts.
Yes, they get nervous. They realize, hey, I might get in this game, and all of a sudden this really happens. I mean, that's what they are. Closers are the most bizarre. Closers.
Good to know. I know.
I've never met a left-handed closer. That would be interesting.
Yeah, Chapman was pretty normal.
Was he?
Well, I mean, I can't talk about some of that stuff on radio, but yeah, for the most part. But anyway, so that was it. And Daniel Stang comes in. He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Dan, I'm done." He's like, "What do you mean you're done?" I was like, "You don't understand. I'm packing my stuff and I'm going home. Like, I'm done with baseball." He said, "Give it 2 weeks." So there's no chance I get to the big leagues as a starter. I'm 0-9. I can't even luck into a no decision in the last how many outings I had. I was like, this is just not going well. He said, "Dude, give it 2 weeks. Don't make a rash decision. This is baseball. Give it 2 weeks." So okay, I'll give it 2 weeks. So I unpacked my stuff back, hung it back up in the locker, sat in the dugout for the last inning, and watched the rest of it. You know, kind of really thinking about it. Was talking to my wife and my mom and my brothers, and you know, hey, I'm packing it in. I'm done. This is what I want to do. And everybody's saying you can't quit. Like, not now. Like, keep going. And I was done. And I'd actually called my coach from Aaron Aiken, my coach from college, and said, "Hey, look, this is what I'm faced with. Like, I'm getting ready to walk away from this." He said, "Well, is there anything you think you could do different to get to the big leagues?" And I said, "Yeah." It's like, if I was in the bullpen, because when I was in AAA, before they'd released, the year before they traded me, my little stint in the bullpen, I was dealing. Like, I could get outs all over the place, and I was throwing 88.
Did you like it?
Being in the bullpen?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go.
I was always a starter out of necessity, except for my time in AA. That was done to try to develop, and so I understood that. That training exercise. But I said, the only chance I have is to go to the bullpen. I said, I think I'll throw harder. My stuff will play better. I'm not seeing guys 3 and 4 times an outing, so I think it'd be better. He's like, "Well, tell him you want to go to the bullpen." Okay, what do I have to lose? My rest of my minor league career that's left in front of me, which I already was ready to pack up the night before.
Right.
And so the Padres at that point had Jimmy Jones covering the major leagues because Ackerfeld, who was a major league bullpen coach, had cancer, and so he's having a hard time with cancer. And so JJ was in the big leagues. He was the AA pitching coach. As a result, the pitching coordinator for the Padres had taken over, and that was Tim Worrell, season big leaguer. San Diego Giants is just season big leaguer. And him and I had a little bit of a relationship, but I'd only been there for like 3 or 4 weeks, so it wasn't super big. And so I called Woozy. His nickname was Woozy. Called Woozy that a couple of days later. And I said, "Listen," I said, "Woozy, man, I'm talking to my wife about going home. It's like I'm looking at what I'm doing outside of baseball." I said, this isn't working. I'm 27, headed backwards. I was just in AAA a month ago. Like, this ain't it. I said, the only chance I think I might have is if I'm a starter, or if I'm a reliever, sorry. He said, "Well, Tommy, let me talk to Gibby." Gibby was my manager in AA in San Antonio, who happened the next year to get the big league job in Toronto and spent the next 5-6 years in Toronto. So it was, Gibson.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Had the little wobble when he walked because his knees were so blown out from catching. Super great guy, local San Antonio guy. And he said, "Let me talk to Gibby. I'll let you know." And so he talked to Gibby, and they called me in the office the next day. And Gibby said, "Tommy," I said, "What's up, Gibby?" He said, "I'll put you in a bullpen, but I ain't got no rules. I can throw you however I want." So, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'll throw you every damn day if I want. I won't throw you at all." "All right, man, let's do it." I said, "Let's do it. Let's go." And he said, "You're going to have 2 days off. Be ready to go." So, all right. Well, Andrew Kashner, the big leagues were having trouble with starters. Andrew Kashner was coming down to get stressed out. That was kind of the start of his starting career because he was an 8th or 9th inning guy at that point for San Diego. Again, throwing 103, what silly numbers, right?
Yeah, man, you're throwing out names that I haven't thought of in a while. And like, man, what a pure pitcher. Like, that guy was born to be a pitcher.
God-given talent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just woke up and was him.
Yep. And so he came down, they started stretching him out, and they instantly turned me into a lefty specialist. So I had my 2 days off, and I come in, face his first lefty. He's like a little slappy lefty. He's like, when I pitched as a starter, I was 84 to 86, 87, maybe touching 88. I threw 3 pitches and got a ground out, and my one fastball I threw was 88. That's weird, right? Never thrown. I don't throw 88 on a normal basis. Even when I was in the bullpen with Arizona, because I was long relief, I was still a tick down on velocity, but it wasn't. When I went to the mound, Gibby goes, "Get the lefty. That's all you have." It's like, okay, here we go. Let it rip. Literally the very next day, same guy. Go out and face the next guy. Go out and face the exact same guy. 2 pitches, ground out. Hit 89. Okay. I'm coming to a little fight here with some tools now. I'm not coming at it with a...
Is your ball doing anything different?
Sink. I mean, it's still sinking, but it was sharp.
Okay.
It was sharp. Like stuff was getting sharper. And so I did that, pitch back-to-back days, and I had 2 days off, and he threw me 4 in a row. And on the 4th day, I hit 94. Per the radar gun in the minor leagues. You know how that is, right? It's still hard.
Could have been not as hard as it really was, or
I took it.
Yeah.
It made me feel good, so I owned it. But I, like that whole day when I threw, or that leading up to it, I was like 90, 92, 92, 94. So it's like 4 consecutive outings, and I peaked on the 4th one. I was like, I'm getting better the more I throw. I could do this, right? This is where I'm made for this. And so they used me as a lefty specialist unless we got into tight situations where we needed bullpen help. Then they'd go out and throw me because I was the guy they didn't care about, right? So they'd go out and throw me for 3 innings, and I'd take a loss. Because I mean, I'm geared up now for the last however many weeks, just throwing as hard as I can. And I'd still go out there and try to do the exact same thing, and I'd run out of gas, and I'd get a walk-off bloop or something. So at one point in the season, I'm 0-10 with whatever ERA I had, but my bullpen ERA was like a 0.6. And I was punching guys out left and right. And there had been, and I didn't pay any attention to it, but all the front office guys come and go. And I started noticing like they were coming more frequent. It was just like the same guys were coming. So, Woozy was a big piece of that. Aaron had kind of taught me all the mechanical stuff and the little bit of the strategic parts behind pitching. But then Woozy, Tim Morrell, had kind of gotten in the mental side of the game. And he said to me, he's like, he would kill me for telling this publicly, but he's like, that game you threw the perfect game or had the perfect game? He calls it the perfect game still because in his eyes it was perfect, right? He's like, you can't hang your hat on the one hit in the walk. I said, yeah. He's like, why were you so good? I was like, I didn't give it a shit. Sorry, can I say that?
Yeah.
I said, I didn't care. I said, man, I didn't care. I was like, it was just out there, let it eat. Whatever happens, happens. Homer, strikeout. I'm not riding the roller coaster of emotion. He said, that's how you pitch. He's like, because if you care, you hold on too tight, you yank that outside fastball across the middle, and that one gets hit out. I'm like, okay. Again, light switch event, light bulb goes off. Yeah, this is what it's all about. And obviously there was some mental sides of the game and some things I would say in my head when I would get up to pitch to try to put myself like, we all have our cues, right? It's no different than a batter does. He puts his foot on the same spot every time, sets his gloves, I had the same thing when I would pitch, right? I can't say it on the air, but there was a mental saying that I put in my head, right? That would get me into that mind frame, that mindset. So that's what I did. And, so Woozy helped me out with the mental side, and that was really the biggest piece. And I think that 99% of players in AA and better, that's the piece they're lacking to get to the big leagues, is that mental side. I think it's so small in what the percentage is, but it's the biggest piece of closing that gap.
And I think, I don't know how to put this in words, but hitters feel what you're talking about. Like if you yesterday pitched and you cared a lot, and then you came out the next day and like you were talking about, you learned how to let go. The hitter would be able to feel the difference, and the guy that cared is way easier to hit. Yeah. So
he's panicking. He's got a load in the bottom of his shorts. He's like, "What am I going to do here?"
Yeah.
It's like I'm scared.
Well,
right?
That they're gripping it. They're going to float a off-speed pitch eventually.
They're going to hang a slider or yank a fastball over the middle. Absolutely. And so I took that in and carried it through a relatively good 6 to 7 week bullpen stint with San Diego's AA team. And so we were actually traveling from San Antonio to Springfield, Missouri to play the Springfield Cardinals, which for me, I always heard about, I lived St. Louis life, right? I lived Cardinal Nation. I bled the same Cardinal red as everybody else. But there was something, because of St. Louis's tradition, there was something special about Springfield that I always held in my head, because a lot of the prospects came out of Springfield. That's when you would start hearing about the prospects in Springfield, right? So it always I never went and watched a game, but it always had a special place because I kind of naturally, by how it was mentioned around me, I held it in a little higher regard than, say, Memphis. Don't know why, but it's just how it was. And so we were rolling into Springfield to play the Cardinals. Super excited. My family was coming. My wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, was actually in Arizona doing a residency program because she's a dentist. And she was coming back through. She was doing it in Flagstaff. Was coming back through, spending the night at my parents. Was going to drive with them from St. Louis to Springfield, catch that series, and then continue driving back to North Carolina, where she's from. Her parents, with all that going on, were actually set up to drive from North Carolina to Springfield to do the same skit, right? And so we had an off day because you know how it is in minor leagues. You got 12-hour bus travel. They give you that off day to spend your entire off day sitting on a bus, crammed in with 30 guys that smell absolutely awful, eating fast food.
It's not an off day.
It's not. It's harder than the games.
It is.
And so I had wanted to go home to get a break, right? It's been a long year. And so Tim, Woozy, and I, because Woozy's got family in St. Louis, Todd Worrell pitched his brother, long career, but they all live in St. Louis.
We know Todd Worrell.
Yeah, Todd and I know Todd really well as well.
He played with his dad.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. You know the Worrells then. And so Woozy and I were both going to fly to St. Louis, and then I was going to spend my off day, which is not on a bus, but actually on a quick plane. So we had a game that night, and the next morning we had like a 9 a.m. flight out. And then we were going to drive down the next day to go to the game. So we'd show up around, 1 o'clock to the ballpark. We'd roll in together. He had a car, everything. Like, he had it all teed up.
Sure.
We were both doing the same thing. And I had thrown that, and I don't remember who he faced, but I don't know. I came in, punched a guy out or something, and I was actually staying in a hotel room at the Holiday Inn Express in San Antonio with a guy named Michael Broadway, who got a cup of coffee with the Giants for a little bit as a reliever, right-hander. And he's already in bed. I don't know why I got home so late, but he's already in bed. It's like 10:30, and Woozy calls me. He's like, hey, I got some bad news, man. I said, what's up? He's like, we can't get on that flight tomorrow. I was like, what? What hell? I was like, don't tell me they won't let us fly for the off day.
Coaches are so fun.
Because there's all those rules, right? Like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you got to travel. Okay, fine. They shut it down. He said, because you're going up. I literally said, I was like, shit, Woozy, I got to go AAA? He goes, no, you're going to Turner Field. You're going to the big leagues. It's like, Woozy, don't screw me right now. He's like, you're going to the big leagues. Congratulations.
Instant heart attack. Panic.
Yes, man. Like, to this day, it makes you want to choke up to this day, just like reliving those moments. And I'm like, yeah, the heart goes from 0 to a million. You're beating through your chest. You're like, dude, don't screw with me. And Gibbons was in the background. And of course, he's got my envision, he's got tobacco hanging on one side. He's like, Tommy, go get him, buddy. Right? Like, that's kind of how he was. And so I said, congratulations. And I had to come back to the field to pack up my stuff. And so I immediately hung up with him. And, coincidentally for me, my wife she wasn't my wife at the time, but she was at my house with my parents. My dad's early to sleep, early to rise. He was construction his whole life. So he'd go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock and be up at 4 a.m., right? So he was in bed. They were still planning to have me there that next day, and then the next day travel to Springfield. And so I called my girlfriend at the time. I was like, hey, we're not going to Springfield. I said, we're going to Turner Field. She's like, what's that?
What's that?
I said, I just got called up to the big leagues. You got to meet me in Atlanta. So she starts crying, right? Because, she'd been with me since I met her in 2008. I got drafted in 2007. So my first real spring training, she started experiencing that life right at the gate. So it kind of been how'd
you guys meet?
Let me get through the baseball.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm almost there.
Maybe that's part 2.
Yeah. So she goes in and says, here, Thomas, talk to you. I told my mom, so they all sat around, cried, and woke my dad up, and then told her parents. So my family, her family, some of my brothers, my uncles, they all drove down overnight to get to Atlanta because I had to be there. And I ended up pitching the first day in. So I flew in, got in at the next day, got in at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And
do your best.
Yeah, you know how that goes. Like, they release the guy when he gets to the park at the 3 o'clock bus, but then you're not allowed to be there till the second bus. Have you ever been a part of that?
Yes. Oh, yes.
They don't want you to cross paths, so they make sure you come on the late bus, and then he gets released in the first. It's just it's a clunky deal, but it's part of the business. Yeah. And so I had to sit in that damn really nice 5-star hotel for hours, just like, I want to go to the ballpark. I want to go to the ballpark. I couldn't go because they had. Yep. And so the best part is, not the best part. This is the cool part. So I get on the bus, the late bus. Of course, that's when all the reporters come. That's when all the front office come, like people that aren't players. And it's like the starting picture. And that's it. And so I walk on the bus, and these people are looking at me like, who are you? They go, who are you? Hi, I'm Tom Layne. Are you supposed to be on this bus? Yes, I am. So immediately out the phones, they start, and I'm sitting there on the bus, and they're like, he's 0-10 with a 4.3 ERA. Why is he here? He must be a roster fit. Like, just going. I'm like, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Welcome to the big leagues.
Hear you.
Mm-hmm. Literally, we're sitting not even from here to the front of the table away. And it's just the media guys. And
Good day for them, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, whatever. Like, it's part of the deal. And so I get there, get suited up, meet some of the guys, and I was fortunate enough to meet Luke Gregerson. Took me under his wing a little bit. He had a little bit of clout, so he helped me quite a bit. And then I ended up getting in the first game.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I didn't have to deal with all that rigmarole the first time. I landed, got in LA traffic, sat in traffic for 2 hours, got to the ballpark in the 5th inning, got the rest, and then Don said, "Oh, hey, Scott, you ready to pinch hit?" I was like, "Yeah, sure."
sure, why not?
Said hi and went and got off the plane, got in the car, got dressed, got on the field.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
It made it easier. I didn't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, there was no time for you even to get nervous about it.
Right.
And I think they do that on purpose. Like, they know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the worst thing about being in the bullpen if you get called up and you're starting a game is you got, like, for me, I came in the 8th inning, we were down 6-4.
Gosh, I didn't even think about that. That should maybe they did think about that. I hope they did because it did make things easier. I would imagine they don't think about that, and it's just
100%.
However it is.
If they're not winning, I would 100%. I'd throw you in there.
Yeah.
Why not break that ice? I mean, break that off,
Yeah.
So, but I got in, and my debut was kind of, I got to say it, right? So, first guy I faced in the big leagues was Brian McCann. And I punched him out on 3. Right. The next guy I faced was Dan Ugla.
He could hit a lefty.
I punched him out. Third guy I faced was Tyler Pasternicki. You remember him? Mm-hmm. Fast, good hand-eye coordination. I punched him out. So I struck out the side on my major league debut. That's what my debut was.
That's
yes,
awesome.
It was very cool. So that was it. That's my claim to fame. As far as I go.
All you need, man.
I was done at that point.
How many people have done that in history?
I don't even know.
Probably a handful.
Yeah.
So you're a handful of people in history to do something. That's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, it was cool. And then the rest, I stayed with San Diego the rest of the year, and wife and I got married in the off season. So if you want to parlay into that, we can.
I think we're picking up what you're putting down. We won't go there. Sorry.
What, with the wife?
Yeah.
No, we can absolutely.
All right. Well,
no, yeah.
Was it a weird story you want to share with anybody, or like?
No, not at all. I wanted to get through to the.
Secretly she's your stepsister, but not.
No.
I don't know.
Absolutely not. No. So, wife and I actually met. So I went to Mount Olive College, which is a super small school. There's like 2,500 people in the town, and literally, you guys go to the grocery store, you see Mount Olive pickles. That's all they have is a pickle factory.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's
I know what you're talking about.
That's it, man. So that's what they make there, and that's it. So they have a school there. It's a private academy or private school, and so I went there and got drafted, and so getting ready for the next year's spring training. Naturally, I went back to the college I was drafted from. Actually stayed with my college catcher at the time, who was back for his senior year. Stayed with him in a place we called the Mansion, which was a double wide trailer. That's where all the parties were.
Double wide.
We had all the space. Yeah. We lived out on a couple acres, so people just park in the grass everywhere.
That's funny.
And so, so we met at the one and only bar there. It was called Murphy's at the time, but it's since been shut down for some like underground gambling stint. But I was there, myself and Scott Huyen, who was drafted from there as well, was with the Brewers at the time. We were there getting ready and just having a drink. And then she'd come in with another guy and introduce myself. And we chatted for a little bit, but then I heard she was with another guy. And so I kind of left it alone and sought her out on Facebook and just, sent her a little friend request, right? And then the conversation just started ripping open from there. And so that was our first date. So I met her. It was middle of January. Our first date was actually Super Bowl weekend of 2008. And it might have been on Super Bowl Sunday, but she took me to damn restaurant. I was like, I'm not from here. Like, I met her in Greenville, North Carolina, because she was at UNC Greensboro, or Greenville, East Carolina University, sorry. And so she was there going to school, and so I went to see her, and she said, well, take me, I don't know, wherever you want to go, we'll go. And she takes me to a restaurant that's close. Take me to the other one's close. So we ended up in like some run-of-the-mill chain restaurant, like nothing special for a first date, but that's okay. She fiddled with her damn silverware the entire time. I was like, I can't do this. She's going to put that silverware down, right?
So you had some pet peeves early on.
I mean, yeah, don't you?
Well, I didn't, I do have pet peeves. Yeah. You noticed it on the first date.
Yeah, but you met yours when you were quite a bit younger too. So you probably didn't, back then when you're 14, 15 years old, you don't really think about that kind of stuff. It becomes more of a pet peeve as you get older.
Think about that. That makes sense. But from what I gather, you initially met your wife at an illegal cockfighting contest.
I mean, that's close. At that point, I didn't realize there was a gambling thing going on in the basement. But we met. I mean, it's not a great story. It's not like, we met randomly we happened to collide, but it was, I mean, literally at a bar in the middle of nowhere.
And then she went on to do dental school while you were going on with your career. But you guys obviously connected through Facebook, and then you had the relationship. Did you just have to keep meeting, or did you guys wind up talking more on the phone? Or
Yeah, so we had our first date and had a couple dates, and I was getting ready to leave for camp because our camp, I always went down about middle of February, even though we didn't have to be there till like March 9th or something. And so I actually drove back to St. Louis. It was my stop from North Carolina to St. Louis to Tucson. And so I asked her, I said, hey, come down for spring training. Yeah, I'll come. So she picked a random weekend she can get off school, and she came, took a Friday test on Thursday so she could bail out for a day and skip class. And she came out for a long weekend and spent some time. Did that a couple times in spring, and then they shipped me up to South Bend, Indiana. And
that's cold.
She was breaking for the summer, and she'd only known me. I met her parents once. She hadn't known me very long. And I asked her, so why don't you come live with me in South Bend? And so she had to humbly, now mind you, my wife is from Raleigh, North Carolina, and not just Raleigh, North Carolina, but a small town southeast of Raleigh, North Carolina called Wendell. It's not the speed of the hustle and bustle of the city. I mean, you're just far enough out. I mean, it's tobacco farmers. It's slow, right? It's traditional, very traditional Southern hospitality. And so for her to go to her father, one, still in college, leaning on daddy a little bit for some cash. And then two, because she's one of two girls, so it's daddy's different than, dad is to a mom or to a boy, right? And so she had to ask for permission to come live with me for the summer. And so that was a tough conversation for her, but they said, yeah. So she came, and we had a whole summer together in South Bend. Then she went back for college, and we kind of regurgitated that every year and every season. So I'd always try to set ourselves up to where, whether it was a host family or I had an apartment that would, other guys, because there are guys that come fresh out of college and get married to their college and high school sweethearts, and they travel together to play minor league baseball making no money. I don't understand how they do it. You did it. Congratulations, man. You have to give me the secret later, because I have no idea how that works.
A lot of help from a lot of different people.
Okay. So yeah, you can't do it without a support group, right?
Yeah.
Well, my parents, when I was in South Bend with her, I paid my rent. They had to pay all my utilities. I couldn't afford it.
Well, I did luck out when my wife, when we got married, she would come out and visit, and then when we got married and she was there the whole year, the first year that we were married in high A, they would have pass the hat. And I was like, what's this pass the hat thing?
I need to get in on that.
And so then I was like, I need to start hitting home runs. I had 25 home runs that year. Pass the hat. Most of them are at home.
Tell me that was your motivation.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Rent.
That's awesome. That's so awesome, man.
So that's how I learned to start hitting homers.
Give a man a cause, right? That's it. That's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah.
That's good.
So you guys got married eventually in ball. You guys are doing the baseball thing.
Yeah. I mean, we lived that whole baseball lifestyle, and she went on from undergrad. She went to grad school. She went to dental school at UNC. So she went from being East Carolina University to UNC, and her dad's a diehard Dookie. So she went on to do dental school, and dental school was like, I don't know how we made it through it. I mean, it was tough because I was doing my own thing, and I had my own ups and downs, right? Like the best parts of my career were not going on at the same time. The best parts of her education was, it's extremely challenging. My wife's an extremely intelligent woman, and there's a lot of struggles that come with some of the gen ed stuff. Like when it got specific to dentistry and more hands-on motor skills, she was phenomenal at that. But it was the book stuff in the background. It was just a lot, right? And she was a double major biology, and I don't even know what the other one was, biology and something else, but so she struggled. We struggled as a couple, and there was points there. It was kind of touch and go. Like, we're going to stick it out. What are we going to do? And it seemed like both of us kind of hit this point where it's like, look, we don't want to go anywhere, right? We know we're committed to this deal, and we've already been through so much and experienced so much. You've got your own thing. I've got my own thing, and they're all coming to an ending at about the same time. Unfortunately for her, my ending was getting a chance to play in the big leagues because she graduated in May of 2013. I got called up in August of 2012. So it was like my life switched for the better. At the same time, her life switched for the better because she's now able to go work. And so she put her life on hold, her dentistry career on hold for the baseball path. And definitely in debt to her for that, because that was to go through all that education is the last 4 years of her life, and how difficult that was to get through that, to then say, okay, now I'm going to step back and just, follow you in what you're doing. That was definitely a commitment from her. So I appreciated that.
Did you fix my crown now?
She can do whatever you want to do, Scott.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's good.
Right.
She's really good. Yeah.
I got a crown that needs to get fixed.
There you go.
You're just gonna have to go to St. Charles to get it done. That's where we're off.
I got a crown.
There you go. She can help you out. So, so she did a dentistry gig for a while, and she's doing that part time, and then she's also doing some. She's heavy into nutrition and wellness and fitness. that's like her passion, right? Like, so she chose to do dentistry as like a profession, but her passion, like everybody's got a passion outside of what they're typically doing for work.
Don't know the feeling at all.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Now you get it, right? And so her thing is this fitness and health and wellness coach type thing. And she's working with a company called Faster Way to Fat Loss, and she's a coach. And we kind of ran into some tough times. So we had 2 kids, both girls. They're now, they're getting ready to turn 8 and 5, like the next month and a half. So I got one in October and one early November. But we actually had a third daughter that we had lost on the tail end of my wife's pregnancy. And so she had a hard time losing weight and kind of grasped this nutrition, carb cycling, intermittent fasting thing through Faster Way to Fat Loss, and really changed not only her appearance, made her happy because you have a kid, it's easy to lose the weight, but when you're kind of in the morning thing and all that, it just makes it very challenging. Sure. So it kind of gave her a new little hope on life, and she got extremely healthy and bought into the program 100%. And so that's like her passion now. Like, she's seeing what value it brought to her life. We since then have had a boy. Awesome. Since then. So we have 3 kids now, but the passion it's brought to her, and just the tenacity she fights for this stuff is.
I'm sure you reap the benefits of having a healthy wife.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. She has so much more energy to chase our kids around, So no, but she's, everybody has their own thing, but it's really cool to see her take such an initiative and a drive towards her own health and wellness, right? Like that's really important. And the lessons that it's teaching our kids, I mean, come on. I mean, it's instrumental in what it does for them. So, it's funny because she does a lot of workouts, and it's short workouts. Her stuff it's all short workouts. It's made for the mom, right? But a kid see it, and next thing I know, I get a picture, and all kids are working out with her. So it's funny to see a 5 and a 7-year-old trying to lift weights. It's like, come on, what are you doing?
That's fun. Mine are doing the same thing. My wife, she always lost weight through the breastfeeding a lot, right?
That's why my wife didn't lose it on the one we lost, because of that. So
and so, but she's had different things happen to her because we've had 6. So with 6 kids, obviously throwing the body, especially the last 2, the boys really seem to throw it out of whack even more. And she's had a bad back all of her life, inherited from her dad had it, her brother, one of her brothers has it. So she's really big on doing her fitness, and as you said, doing the mom workout. And I love it because all my kids will start, mimic. She'll send me pictures of them, or my kids will even call them. Like my boys the other day, he said, "Dad, I just got to tell you, I did 3 sets of 10. I was like, what? Yeah, I did push-ups, Dad. I did the push-ups like you challenged me. So they're all, all into it. So that's really cool. But I also, before you walked in, we were talking because I've been noticing all of this stuff of your wife, and she's been putting out a lot of content. So we'll add that to the podcast. So those who are listening, if you're a mom, and I know we got a lot because we got a lot of people from our church and other places that listen in. And if you're somebody listening in and you want some inspiration, we'll have those links there so you can check those out. And
get a coach.
I was going to say, before blessed, maybe we'll get Meghan in here. So
she would do it in a heartbeat. I mean, she geeks out with that stuff. She can go for hours. So just prepare yourself. You might want to record it and cut and edit out some stuff. So she can go for a long time.
That's good.
That's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So that's really cool. I knew parts of your story, but that was really cool to hear the whole story. So.
Yeah, I told you it was long. I mean, I just be prepared for it
and we only got a percentage of it.
Yes.
Think about, the days in, the days out, the days that you don't even want to remember. that we didn't talk about today.
Yeah. So you played for some really cool teams. You played for the Red Sox, obviously, eventually the Dodgers. We were talking about that, and the Yankees, and then you retire as a Cardinal. One of the questions I've always had is when you retired, and we didn't even talk about this, but I always thought it was interesting because the year before you retired, you had a really good season for the AAA Cardinals.
I should have got called up.
I agreed.
No doubt.
I agreed. Your numbers were all there. You were pitching because I knew you by that point. I was following you, and I was like just blown. I'm looking at these numbers, and I'm going, when are they going to call him up? When are they going to call? Because our bullpen wasn't all that great that year.
I guarantee you, he mentioned, we got to bring up Tommy. What are we doing?
You know what? The funny thing about that is it was the year that it was like right on the fringe of getting into the playoffs. And I started watching, right? Because you get to the point where it's like, okay, the team's in a playoff hunt. They're right there. They're like a game and a half, 2 games back, whatever it was. And they took it all the way down to the wire. I think we were officially out of it like 3 games left. The major league team was. And I was in AAA. And there was like 4 games I watched that we lost because they didn't bring in a lefty to face the lefty. I'm like, that's me. Like, I could do that. I'm not saying I would do it every single time, but I could at least do it 3 out of 4, right? And you would have won those games because the lefty got the knock to cost them the run. So That was a little hard.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because it seemed like, and then you went into spring training that year, and it seemed like they were kind of giving you a shot. But on the other hand, I was also watching the opportunities they were giving you, and they weren't ideal situations either.
No, so I basically went into that camp, and I went back to St. Louis because I had a great year in St. Louis. So naturally in the offseason, I was getting approached by a lot of teams about, hey, we come play with us. And full transparency, I feel like I had a relatively storied career. And that's all in the eye of the beholder, right? I didn't have a Dustin Pedroia or David Ortiz or, Adrian Gonzalez type career, right? But for me, and what the expectation was with what I had and what I was real with my skill set. I wasn't throwing 100 miles an hour and had 2 nasty off-speed pitches, right? So for what I did, I felt like I had already done well. And so my number 1 team to play for my entire life was the Cardinals, no doubt. And then number 2 was the Red Sox. So I got to play for my number 2 team. And then coincidentally, I literally walked from home dugout at Fenway across home plate into the visiting locker room to be a Yankee. So I'm like, all right, this is kind of cool, right? 2 of the most storied teams in baseball.
Absolutely.
Get to play for both of them and have some success at both. And so what better way to go out than to be in St. Louis, get to sleep in my own bed and drive to Busch Stadium to go play and pitch for the Cardinals. Like that was it. That was the end all be all. I knew I wasn't going to get like some long contract that was going to tie me up. So yeah, I'll go back to the Cardinals. And the understanding was that if I did what I did the year prior, I'd get a chance. Well, I didn't do what I did the year prior. Ran out on that. It's a mix of a couple of things. I mean, I'm going to own it on that part. I was not good. I just wasn't. But then on the flip side, during spring training, I didn't get the reps either. Like there was a lot of sitting. You're supposed to pitch. You didn't pitch. And that comes with the territory of being a non-roster guy invited to spring training. You're kind of picking up the leftover pieces and crumbs that are left. So I didn't really pitch a whole lot, and that's always been bad for me. Like I was the type in my career I had to get consistent. I had to get consistent work, and not just bullpens, but game work. It's like not taking BP for 3 weeks and then getting thrown into a game. That was what killed me in New York when I got cut out of New York. That
was my whole career.
12 days, 12 days, 2 innings, 10 days, 1 inning, 15 days, 1 out. It was like, guys, I can't do this. I'm not sharp. And then it ends up in release, and it's like, well, you got to own it because if you were pitching better, you would have pitched more. So
it's like the cart before it's like the chicken or the egg.
Right.
Can I pitch well without all this stuff, or but you got to pitch well to get all this extra work.
The hard part was you spend so many months. Like for me, it was hard to get that, because pitchers have this, I call it feel, and it's real, right? Like no different than your swing. It's just you don't even see the ball, you just smack it, right? Pitchers get to this point where it's like mid-season form, you get this feel, and I worked so hard to garner that feel every year. It was not easy for me. And so when I got it, because I had to be accurate, because I wasn't throwing 100, so I had to be accurate, had to have good movement, so there's a bunch of things at play. So I had it. In 2017, I went and did the World Baseball Classic, and I had it. Finished out spring training, I had it. Season starts, I don't pitch, I lost it. It was like all that hard work to get it, and then now it's gone. It's like, well, I can't figure it out here because there's just no space to do it. And that's where then when I was a little bit younger, I was probably able to do that. But, getting 34, 35 years old, it was just harder to get their body going. So
yeah, there comes. Well, there's only so many pitches you can throw, only so many innings. I mean, Beckett's been on here several times. That's one of his favorite quotes to us. When he talked about playing down in Texas, he's got a few sayings about how hot it is in Texas when we call them.
Awful. It's so hot.
Well, you're talking about feel for somebody's listening. What came to mind to like make it relatable? It's like if you're on summer break and then you get back to school and you start writing essays and you're like, oh, I can write. But then a couple more weeks go by and then you're kind of just whipping that pen around.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's like anything else. The more you do something, the more habitual it becomes. It's almost like muscle memory takes over. Right. And so that was kind of the thing with pitching is like so many factors go into throwing something as hard as you can accurately with movement.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of motor function that takes place there, and to have that finite touch at the end of it to manipulate, because again, I had to manipulate. I couldn't just blow straight four seamers. I'd have been a batting practice. So, yeah, I had to really go after it, and the field was big, so I did a lot of throwing, a lot of work, countless flat grounds, countless bullpen sessions. It was definitely a lot. So my off-season routine was a little bit different than most. Actually, when I was with the Red Sox, Pedro had come up to me and he talked to me about my off-season routine, and we talked about spring training and what my plan was in spring. And I said, right now I'm real close to getting that feel. I just want to continue the path I'm going to make sure I maintain that. And I think that was like the spring training of 2015. Wasn't guaranteed a spot on the club, but I was pretty sure I was going to make it because I had a great 14 with them. And he asked me, and it did change how I did things to an extent, but he asked me, he's like, well, why do you stop throwing in the off season? Why don't you get the feel and keep the feel? Well, I think there is some value in shutting it down and not going after it, right? Because you could probably maintain it throwing 70%, but yeah,
Well, it's also coming from a guy, Pedro, who probably
went to the Dominican where it was warm.
well, it was warm every day, but he also probably grew up like he only played baseball.
That was his life.
So he threw every single week of every single year of his life. So that's easy. Why did you stop throwing? Just keep throwing.
Yeah, and I at the end of my major league seasons, for the most part, I logged a lot of appearances, and they were always jam-packed in the short windows. Like when I was with San Diego, I had one deal. It was like a 13-run span. I had thrown 9 days. It was silly. But like the tail end of that was actually my first win in big leagues against the Doyers in the 10th inning.
Really?
Yep.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, but so it's just a feel thing. But yeah, I don't know.
Happened. It happened.
I was just thinking when we were talking earlier, Yankees, Red Sox, Cardinals, 3 storied teams. Okay, not cheapies.
Correct.
None of them are making the playoffs this year.
Yeah. So
isn't that crazy?
Who is?
It is.
But who is making the playoffs?
The Doyers.
The Doyers.
No. So yeah, I mean they're good ball clubs on paper, right? I mean they all have kind of their different issues. You know, some might be starting pitching, some might be bullpen, some are injuries, some are a mix of both. Some are, you know, hey, when the hitting's good, the pitching's bad. When the pitching's bad, the hitting's bad. So, or pitching's good, the hitting's bad. So it's like, you know, so many things have to coexist together in unison for teams to have a long run. You know, it's pretty impressive what the Dodgers have done. I mean, it's impressive what St. Louis has done up until this year, right? It's a great run. It was like 11 straight winning seasons or 12 straight winning seasons. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
Yeah, they had one. They missed the playoffs once in the last 11 years.
That's unbelievable, right? Think about that run. That's phenomenal to not have a bad luck. Like, just as much as I should have lucked into a damn win in 2012, they're gonna unluckily fall into a bad season.
But I will also say, I don't know if I say unluckily that they fall into a bad season.
I know.
I think that part of that was not focused. You know,
4 divisions.
well, so
Right? The Cardinals have a good division for consistently winning.
Yes, they do. The division is poor. I mean, look at them and what they would do, say, in the AL East. I mean, that's a beast of a division up there, right? Look at those records. I mean, the Red Sox are not bad per their record, but they're in a very difficult division. I think they're still trying to find out what that core group of guys looks like. I mean, it's funny because you get on the TV and you watch games now, and I don't know half the guys out there anymore. I mean, I know the Yankees players because I play with some of them. I know the Cardinals guys because I play with some of them, right? But for the most part, like, these are all a bunch of new names.
right.
A lot of the names are shifting out, but I know the Yankees had a lot of injuries, right? And the Yankees have,
That's what I think their biggest thing is, the injuries, and then they had one pitcher that really just didn't work out as well. But I think part of that's with we talked about that with the new pitching rules, because he needs that breath. He's kind of a heavier dude, and he needs that time to think and take a big breath on that body of his.
What's that guy's name? Manaya?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh.
They're just the speed clock he thinks getting them.
Well, yeah, because he's a guy that he's kind of heavier, and so when he throws, I think he needs that extra time to catch his wind. I think throwing is harder on him because of his body.
Who's him? I'm sorry, I'm lost.
I'm the guy from the Yankees that we were talking about. I'm trying to think of his name too, because he's kind of a heavier set guy.
You know what's funny about that, guys? During the off season this last season, there was a new guy on MLB Network. He used to be a catcher. I can't think of his name right now, but he mentioned specifically that guy needs to lose weight, and that guy went on a Twitter tirade. Just everybody's can talk a big game when they're sitting behind a desk or whatever. You mind your own business. And I remember thinking, you better be careful saying that, because you're gonna have to pitch a lot faster next year, and you are out of shape.
Yeah. Well, it's caught up to me. His record has not been good this year. It's one of the worst for the Yankees, and he's signed for him for a few years.
Is he the lefty? Mm-hmm. Cortez?
Yes.
I know the one with the mustache. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
There's
about.
another guy too.
Funky lefty.
Yeah.
He's good. But you're saying he's having a rough year. He's been injured though too, right?
I think more of it is just the pitching.
Okay.
ERA. Like, hey, we're going to shut him down.
Yeah.
But
and the Yankees, I mean, full transparency, the Yankees are kind of an all or nothing team, right? There's a lot of boppers on there, a lot of home run hitters. They don't have Judge. I don't think he's back yet. But, like, that's tough, especially when you get to a point to where
Well, and then you expect Judge to repeat last year. Was he going to repeat last year?
it's hard.
That's like when the Cardinals wanted Michaelis to repeat last year. I mean, that was the best year he's ever had.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I see that. I mean, Miles had made some strides. So Miles actually, when I got called up with San Diego, Miles got called up in September. He might have already been there. So we had a little short stint together with San Diego before he went off and went and did I think he did some ball with Texas for a little bit before he went down and I think he went to Japan, right?
Yeah.
I think it was Japan. So he made a pretty good living over in Japan before he came back, but Miles substantially got better.
Well,
And
sure.
I-
He's not a bad pitcher. I'm just saying that he last year had a career year. There's a difference between somebody who has a career year. Last year's stats were like, what was it, 3.06, 15, 16 wins. I mean, just there was not a stat category that he wasn't a top pitcher, but he's also 34, 35.
Right.
What are the odds a guy is going to continue to build off that later? I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done, but if you're a team, I mean, I'm just thinking, are you really thinking this guy is going to be able to repeat this years to come? Or is he just the kind of the pitcher we've seen the last several years, which is a solid number 3 guy? So
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to expect some kind of regression after a great year like that, right? And if it moves the opposite direction, it's like, okay, we got something here. And if you do it 3 years in a row, all right, let's be real. I mean, you're the real deal, right? And so I do know that St. Louis does pride themselves on some historical data on when they look and evaluate players. It's not, they're keenly aware of hey, just had a hot run, so they are aware of that. That is part of their criteria for playing for them at the more advanced levels. They're not just going to give a guy a chip and a chair and a chance like some of the lower market like teams would do. Kind of similar how San Diego did for me. It's a little harder there because they do rely on some historical performance. For Miles, I mean, he'll be okay. He had a great year last year. Let's say it's a down year this year. If he falls somewhere,
he's not having a bad year this year. I just was saying, you had a guy last year had a career year.
Can't expect the same. I agree.
Yeah, and Waino, the first half of last year at 40 years old, and now, he had a bad second half. To expect him to come back and pitch like he did the first half this whole season, I thought that was, I didn't expect him to be as bad this year, but I thought the Cardinals' expectations of their starting rotation were flawed to begin with because there was just nobody there that I'm looking going.
Well, I think they mentioned, I think John said that their expectations did not pan out.
Yeah, well, I think they way over-expected, though. I mean,
Sure.
Flaherty had been injured for 3 years in a row, and in the last 2 years,
From the get, they were wrong.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you looked at that staff, most people who can evaluate baseball would have said the staff is incomplete pitching staff from a starting pitching point of view, which then throws your bullpen off because if your bullpen every game is trying to throw 4 or 5 innings.
Well,
That will crush your bullpen come second half of the season.
A month. I mean, they had a month where none of their pitchers got past 5 innings.
The long-term effects on your bullpen there is it's astronomical. I mean, I've experienced it. I've witnessed it firsthand. I mean, I know a lot of teams that try to protect their bullpen by carrying 2 long relievers in their bullpen because of that very scenario. It's the reason why I didn't make the San Diego club in 2014 out of spring training. So, 2013 out of spring training. So, I get that 100%. And I think it's tough, though, because the Cardinals are in a little bit of a tough spot because they got Jack coming off the DL, right? He'd been injured, had some issues. Flaherty,
yeah. He's been having issues for the last 2 or 3 years, but when he's pitched, and even when he's healthy, but when he's pitched, he wasn't the same guy they had 3 years earlier. Somehow they thought he was going to be an ace again, and I was trying to figure out how a guy... I wasn't seeing what they were seeing because when I watched him pitch half a season last year, or the bits that he'd been pitching, he just was not replicating.
Well, he's a guy that they would maybe look the other way about historical data and say this guy's stuff is so ridiculous that you can't pass up on a guy like that. You
I'm
can't.
not saying he passed up, but was he the ace or number 1 or 2 guy that that they kind of were selling him to be for the team?
No, but you also can't tell a guy like that, hey, you're just like an add-on 5th starter.
Okay.
I don't think.
So
Kill us.
I think they had Miles. I think the intent behind him was, okay, we want you to be our 260, 280 hitter, right? A guy we can bank on getting the job done fairly well. I think that was who Miles was supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so where he fits in the rotation, depending upon what staff he's on, it could be a 1 for some teams, it could be a 3 or 4 for some teams, but I think he's pretty comfortable in that 2 to 3 spot. I think that's probably where he fits.
Yeah, agreed.
You got Jack, and Jack's got ace type stuff. There's no doubt. And so, granted, he had Flaherty had his issues with being healthy. But in the moment that does click and he can return back to his pitching form, okay, now you do have that ace, right? And so you also have a value.
He is now, though?
No, I'm not saying. Well, I don't know.
That was my thing. Is I think he had ace potential 3 years ago, but last year he pitched a half season. The year before he pitched about half a season. The last couple of seasons when he's pitched, velocity was down, arm slot was different. That's why his results were different.
Well, I think you're saying, but he had that, and it wasn't that long ago that he was ace type stuff. So
I agree.
He was supposedly healthy, so they have to bank on that, right?
They have to weigh that into effect. And what's the option with Jack? Let's say Jack's the guy we're talking about. What's your options there? Do you just slide him back to 4th or 5th in the rotation? You put him down to AAA to figure it out? Like, they're kind of committed at that point to either, they have to let him pitch at the major league level to increase his value to potentially trade him, which they did, right, and get something in return. Because if they saw that he wasn't a fit for future plans, but unfortunately, like in those years, you're relying on other guys to pick up some of the slack when you have those. What you don't want to have is one starter underperforming. I think there was one starter they moved to the bullpen. Was that Matt's?
Yep, that was Matt's.
So you don't want to.
He came back and pitched really well after the bullpen. Yeah.
So you don't want to have guys underperform, guys get injured, and then the whole slew of things from a starting pitching perspective for the Cardinals is like nothing played out well.
Well, and the other thing
it just didn't work out.
Well, the other thing I would say is every season for the last 3 or 4 seasons, they've taken a bullpen guy to try to make him the number 5 guy.
Yeah, they needed
that has not worked out. They have not had a guy that's worked out to be a starter. I mean, last year it was Hicks, this year it was Woodford. You can go down the list, but for the last several years, they've tried to make that number 5 guy one of their long-term bullpen guys a shot at starting. And I've been like, and now again that throws off the bullpen. If they were good last year in the bullpen, I'm not saying
maybe leave them do what they're doing good at.
Yeah, it's like getting a D-back and trying to convert him into a receiver. That's like 2 different animals.
Well, how many times you walked in from the plate and said, "Man, I can't hit that pitch," and your hitting coach says, "Well, stop swinging at it, dummy."
Yeah,
I mean that's like the number 1 rule in baseball. Like, find that thing you're good at doing and keep doing that thing. Yeah. Work on your weaknesses, right? But I think if you take the same Cardinal staff, granted we can recognize the issues and the shortcomings, but I think you take the same pitching staff, you fast forward. Season's over. You take the same staff into the next year because for whatever reason you're pot committed and you can't make any changes. I think they do better than they're doing as a team as a whole. I really do. I think it's just a bad run. Everybody has their unfortunate events that happen. At the end of the day, though, it does come down to how hard or soft you throw. It comes down to pitch execution, putting the right fingers down as a catcher and having the right game plan from a scouting report standpoint, and getting some timely hitting if your offense is the type that's going to need to keep, pitching's got to keep you into ball games. And so as long as all those things coexist, and as far as I'm concerned, their offense has been fairly well.
I like their offense. I thought that's not been my problem all season. I think
the ability to stop the runs. And then the problem with it is, like, once you start to blow that bullpen out, which it seems like that's kind of what's happening. I know they just got Helsley back, if I saw that correctly.
Part of the bullpen getting blown out again goes back to when at the beginning of the season, in the first 6 weeks of the season, I think they had 1 game, maybe 2 games that they had a starter go past 6 innings.
Right. So, I mean, the bad thing about that is when you see that and the bullpen's getting worked up, they're getting abused. Like, if I'm a competitor, and this was a Red Sox MO, like, if I'm a competitor going to place the Red Sox and I was in the Red Sox listening to the hitting meeting, it was like, hey, guys, their bullpen has been struggling because they've been getting abused. Their starters haven't been going deep. See some pitches today. Get to that number 7 guy in the bullpen. Get to the last guy in the pen. We're going to rake him for 3 innings. Yep. Like, that was their plan. Get the starters out early. And so teams see that. And there's strategically advanced scouting out there that's saying, hey, look, starters are struggling. Don't go out there and get easy outs. Make them pitch. And so when you know that, and you can float those float those pitch counts up quick and get them out of the game, the longer you do that into the season, the more it stresses out the bullpen, the more likely you're going to score some runs against them. So,
well, that's kind of what happened with the Cardinals. The pitchers didn't go deep. The bullpen got abused, and the next thing you know, 2 out of 3 wheels are now off the track. And so
don't forget about Oliver Marmol.
Yeah, what do you think of him?
I mean, he came into it. I mean, that's a whole nother category that people that you have to talk about.
Yeah,
as affecting a team as a whole.
Yeah, do you think he's a good manager?
I don't know how he is in the locker room.
Yeah, sure.
There's some
based on
questionable thing. I don't think he handles the bullpen well at all.
Yeah,
and that's
most.
You're a manager.
Most of them have a hard time when they're new at that.
Yes. Well, yes. Well, when Don Mattingly, when he first became a manager, struggled with that first couple of years. Like, it just is really hard, and you have to have a really, really, really good bench manager. That's like
Yeah, I was wondering how.
Hey, and I think.
I think that was last year. Well, that last year he had Schumacher.
Yeah.
And obviously he's and so I wondered if a lot of last year's success for Marmol was Schumacher being that guy, that ear, plus a little more discipline within the clubhouse, because you had Albert. Albert, Albert's a friendly guy, but I also know that when you're in the clubhouse, he's a guy who will call your crap out too. So
yeah. Well, it's just the new. They have a new culture. They have a new manager. They have new players. They have like everything. And what you talked about, like everybody that could have pitched well didn't pitch well. Everybody that could have hit well isn't hitting well. Like everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. On top of having a new manager, on top of
yeah. Well, they're saying, the Cardinals are saying they need 3 new pitchers. What do you think, Tommy?
I think I would agree with that. I think from a starting standpoint, they need 3 new pitchers.
That's what they said.
I would agree with that.
From a starting point.
And you'll know how serious they are by who they go get. I mean, I don't know who's available this offseason, and then obviously there's trades, and I don't, full transparency, don't know the strength of the minor league system for the Cardinals at the moment.
And can we get a closer? Like somebody that, like, I know, like it's the 9th inning, like I have a song that's coming and I know who's coming out.
Where's the Cardinals Chapman?
Where's I can't think of the last closer that Isringhausen.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a consistent closer.
Yeah, but even Mott was like
Rosenthal. Trevor was their closer for about 3 years, and he was dinging. He had actually over 40 saves one season.
Yeah, he was leading, I thought, at one point, wasn't he?
Oh yeah.
And those are good years, right? You're mentioning they had closers.
They need a good closers, no doubt. One thing I want to mention on the Marmol thing, and I think it's been kind of understated in the media, maybe it hasn't, just my overall understanding, like that locker room, that team is a family.
Yeah.
Right? I would venture to say that there's a lot of trust issues currently because, I mean, we all know Tyler O'Neill got reprimanded publicly for his lack of hustle. That's handled behind closed. My opinion only. Take it right, wrong, or indifferent. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's handled privately in the clubhouse amongst the team. That is not something that is aired out on national for everybody to read and see and hear. And so I think in that moment, if you're a manager and you're young and new and you do that, and you have some guys that there's some veteran errors, there's some veteran heads in that locker room. You lose your locker room, you lose your season. Wasn't too long after that, things really got bad. Don't know if there's a direct correlation to it or not, but if you don't respect your manager, who are you playing for? You're just playing for each other, right? That's your drive. But I mean, there's got to be trust at the helm of that leadership. And I don't know if that's the issue, but I would say it's probably part of the disease that's killing it right now.
Well, you also saw that with how they handled Contreras. They tried to throw him on right not far after that, and that also was what caused Wayno to come back from his injury quicker. He was actually going through like a normal rehab, and all of a sudden it was like, we got to fast track it because everything's going off the track. We know Contreras made it out, and it was public knowledge that they had blamed all the pitching problems on him a month into the season, and
that can't happen.
Yeah,
we're all missing one piece here that I think hasn't been talked about yet. One of the brightest minds in baseball from a catching perspective is no longer with that team.
Well,
Yachty's gone.
Yeah, and
those fingers being put down make a big difference.
I agree, and I also say they didn't do a good job preparing for life after Yachty because they were saying early on in the season that they were counting on the catcher to call the pitch for them, and a lot of teams the pitcher calls the pitch. They own it.
Right. And so, I mean, I don't know. There's a whole Yachty just knew. I mean, he can't take a guy that he's just super genius. I threw to Yachty one time. He never caught a bullpen. I go into spring training, I threw to him one time. Usually when I got in the game, he was out. I come in one time, never seen me throw a pitch, never thrown him a pitch. He calls my bread and butter that every catcher in America has called for me, which is a fastball down into a lefty, first pitch. First pitch, ground ball, I'm out. That's it. That was it. Like I didn't have to talk to him about what I had. He didn't even ask. He just knew right where to go.
He caught a few of your balls and was like, all right, I know.
I know exactly how to use this stuff to get outs. Like that's an intangible you can't teach. That comes from experience and time. And so I think largely that has a lot to do with the pitching struggles, especially on the starting staff where they're expected to get deeper into games. Because Yachty was looking at this going, okay, so-and-so's coming up in this inning, nobody's on. We're not going to give him our out pitch. We're going to get him out with when there's a runner on third base, less than 2 outs. So he was able to manage the game differently. And I played with Kisner in AAA. Based off my experience with him, he doesn't have that ability. He doesn't have the ability to see innings ahead of time. Maybe they're working with him on that, and he's being coached through that, so he may have changed since then. I don't know Contreras at all, but absolutely that was going through Yachty's head. Pick your points to get your outs with who you need to get outs for. Know who your outs are, and I don't know that those guys share that sentiment right now because they just don't have that battle knowledge yet.
Yeah, that very well could be. I mean, that is a good, well taken point. As far as pitchers that are available, You got Snell is out there. You got the guy who just got in trouble with the Dodgers.
He'll never pitch again.
A
Yeah.
lefty?
Urias.
I don't know what's going on there. You know more about that being with that
He
family.
beat up his wife a couple days ago.
Again, for the second time.
There's video of it this time. He's
Ooh, that ain't gonna work out well.
Bauer is expected to be back.
in the who? In the big leagues?
Yeah, he's expected to be, 1-year stint with Japan and come back next year.
Oh.
We mentioned him.
I don't like that guy.
I don't think he fits into St. Louis culture.
The guy that the guy that I really think they should go after is Nola. So from
Austin, no, that's a good fit.
I think Nola would be a good fit for them. He's kind of that bulldog pitcher like Carp. He's won. He knows what it takes. He's still young, 29 years old. He's led a team of younger pitchers, and he's been on teams with veterans and seems to be okay either way. He's okay with being the number one guy, and he's okay with sharing the number one spot. He seems to be that kind of a. So to me, he seems to be a good guy for the culture. The number 2 guy that I think the Cardinals should go after is a trade. I think that they need to. You're going to have to get rid of somebody. So I think you're going to. Probably somebody that package. I'm thinking like O'Neill, Brendan Donovan. I know he's a favorite in St. Louis, but he has trade. You got to trade something to get something. Mm-hmm. So with 2 of those guys, and then maybe a McGreevy, one of our top ranked pitchers, to go up to Seattle and get Logan from them. You get a young, controllable, up-and-coming stud to be your number 2. Michaelis slots very comfortably then as the 2-3 guy. If one of those guys struggles a little bit, or he, just like you said, I think that's perfect for him. I look at Michaelis reminds me a lot of who is the Cardinal player that now is with the Dodgers? Went to the White Sox. I'm having a brain fart all of a sudden. He's doing well with the
Cardinals.
He was with the Cardinals.
Sox.
He was with the White Sox this year.
Position player or pitcher?
Pitcher, starting pitcher, great pitcher for the Cardinals. He's done well everywhere he's gone. Pitched real well for the Yankees.
Lance Lynn.
Thank you, Lance Lynn. That's who I think of when I think of Michaelis. He's a guy who slots well as a number 3-2 guy. Occasionally can step up and be that one guy, but he's.
You want to hear a funny Lance Lynn story?
Absolutely.
One time in LA, it was a day game. And I just noticed the way he was warming up. I just like, this guy there's something he doesn't care today. He came out of the mouth. I don't remember the exact number, but it was like, I'm just gonna say a number: 53 fastballs to start the game in a row, not one breaking ball. After like 30 in a row, I was like,
who were you playing?
What is going on?
You were with the Dodgers?
Yeah, he was with. Who was he with?
Had to be the White Sox. Or did he spend time with the Twins?
No, it was the Cardinals.
He was with the Cardinals.
The Cardinals.
I don't remember that.
Look it up. I don't. It had to be.
I believe
be
you.
a record. I don't know if it was a record. It had to be a record for the most fastballs.
So did you play that day?
Didn't start.
Dang it, man.
No.
Did you tell your team, hey,
That's how I noticed. I was like this for like an inning or 2, and I was like, has he thrown a breaking ball yet?
Yeah, but the funny thing is he was probably sinking it, forcing it, and cutting it. It was like 3 separate shapes, and you're,
94, 95, 92, 96.
Yeah.
Well, so that's what I think of when I think of Michaelis. And then for their number 4 guy, who I also think would be a cool thing, and he's having another quiet good year, Michael Wacha. Bring a return back. He's still got his St. Louis roots a little bit here. He's had 2 good years in a row, actually 2.5 good years, turned it around in Tampa. Last year did really good for Red Sox. This year's doing it again really well.
But then you put yourself in a position, just what we were talking about, a 34-year-old guy that already had his best year. What are you going to expect from him?
I think that his contract last year he signed a 1 year. The year before, I mean, he maybe wants a 2 this year after 2 good years in a row. But that's why I said you could probably get him as a low, not like a big. He's not going to be a big. He's not one of the top 5.
Hometown discount?
Well, I was even thinking he's not like a top 5 or 6 pitcher in the league. Out the gate, you got to sign somebody. You got to spend some money. And he seems like, okay, he kind of already got a connection. He's figured out his stuff. He's not a stuff, okay, but he's pitching well the last couple of years. He'd be very comfortable in a number 3-4 slot.
The Logan kid from Seattle. Is he a righty or lefty?
He is. Ooh.
You got to slide a lefty in there somewhere. You need somebody that's going to eat innings. They're going to put up a 6, but they're going to throw 200 innings a year.
Yeah, well, they had the best lefty available already, but getting him back will mean going through Scott Boras. He's with Texas right now, the Rangers. He's the top lefty that'll be on the market this year.
Who's that?
I I'm having a brain fart. The guy we got from the Yankees for Bader. We traded Bader and we traded
Oh, Jordan Montgomery.
Montgomery. Thank you.
Yeah, but he's a legitimate 2 to 3, I think.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
got decent stuff.
That's why I said he's the best lefty on the market this year.
Yeah, you could get him back for sure. I don't know why you wouldn't. Well, like you said, you got Boris, right? But
yeah, 1 second and we'll wrap this up here. I was just trying to look up you asked about Logan. I was going to try to look him up and see what, that is a very good question, what he pitches. So.
I think I faced you.
Logan Gilbert.
I think I remember my at-bat against you.
so I faced you, D. I started when you were in Chattanooga.
Yeah. No, I remember though. I don't remember.
Were you ever in Chattanooga?
He's a righty too.
2010, 2011.
Yeah, I faced you when I was in Mobile. Yeah, in Chattanooga. He was you, D, and the big hitter, Jerry Sands. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sands had a homer off me, sucker.
Yeah, he was like the guy that kind of pushed me to
hit homers.
better and get, yeah, because
Pass the hat.
he was like, I was a little bit older and he was kind of coming up. And I was like, okay, I gotta.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember he had really good plate coverage. I don't know what you ever did off me. I'm sure you got a knock. I was a starter, so you
Yeah,
faced
it was
me
a
enough
line
times.
drive to right. I paid attention.
As long as you
And
kept
I knew
it
you liked to throw your little
sinkers in.
just get ahead. So I was like, I'm swinging no matter what. He's gonna throw a fastball, and you did a pitch away.
First pitch heater away, you slapped it to right.
Left it to right. You were okay with it. It was just a lousy single.
That's right, because the next guy's going to come up and throw a double play for me. Yeah,
And I knew that. And guy, he's like, he doesn't care if I get a single. He's gonna try to.
he's a power hitter. Take a single all day long. I walk you. I don't care about walks and singles. They don't hurt.
So I had to get you early.
Yeah,
Well, there you go. Well, we'll have to end this. We'll have to get you back again. We'll talk some more ball. So,
absolutely.
We'll get your wife. We'll talk health and.
yeah, we definitely need to get Megan in here. That'd be.
I don't need to be here then. Y'all going to have plenty of content with her.
Oh yeah, we'll get her in here.
We'll have you a little sit. You can laugh.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
Thanks for coming, man.
No, I appreciate it. This is a phenomenal experience. First podcast I've ever done. So,
Oh, there you go.
thank you guys for the opportunity. Definitely
Natural.
enjoy myself today. So,
Oh, it was
good.
fun. Well, hey guys, thanks for listening in and checking it all out. And don't forget to.
Like you say it.
Okay, I say it all the time, but like and subscribe. Don't forget to
Share.
Yep, and don't forget to support us and support those that support us. So we appreciate it, and we'll catch you next one. This is, I think, episode 62, or 60, something like that. So
Congratulations on being on our 60-second podcast.
yeah, something like that. 62, 63.
Thank you.
We've been. No, my point of that was we've been putting out a lot of content. I was, you don't pay attention when you just got your head to the ground and doing things. And I looked up the other day and saw on YouTube like 182.
That's what they
videos.
tell marathon runners to do. Build a castle, but do it one brick at a time. And when you're done with your castle, you'll be done with the marathon.
there you go. That's it.
There you go. Well, on that, we'll catch you next episode. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
You're safe.